know if I should wait.
Communication between you and your child that
Needs to happen.
Should I wait a little bit or just start?
After you go
Okay. You want me to shut the door? Or?
I'd say that, I mean,
Okay. So is it recording?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you guys for coming. I hope that you learned something today. My biggest fear is always that I'm off base, but I think I'm very confident that at something that we're going to cover today for the workshop, you're going to be able to go back home and take with you. I am giving you all the information, so I guess you could hypothetically just skim through and leave if you wanted to. Hopefully you'll stick with me because I feel like there's some really good things that we're going to talk about and then have some discussion as well. So this is mainly for your reference, like if you forget something or if you want to go back and if you want to go back and look at something that you forgot, or if you want to take notes on a particular slide, don't be intimidated by the number of slides because we will be going through relatively quickly.
Thank you.
I'm not going to sit and talk for 5 minutes on every slide. You guys here, I got extras, you can have one.
Thank you.
These are for you two back there.
Hey, thanks.
Bethany, did you get one? Yeah. Okay. Okay, so I'm Wyatt Shaw. I'm the ag teacher at Burlington, and I'm going into my 4th year, so I'm very much still a new teacher. But one of the things that I've become passionate about, and one of the priorities I knew I had going into my first time teaching career, is that I wanted to be a part of the community, inundated in what's going on, because I think that for your program and your community and your students to buy into who you are and what you're trying to accomplish, you need their support, you need their buy-in. And so I think that all kind of ties into what we're talking about today. And the title is Promoting Agriculture in the Local Program. What Emily called it on the sheet was the importance of communications in agriculture. So I'm not going to spend too much time on the agriculture side of things because we're all agricultural educators and we understand that context. But we are going to briefly highlight it to kind of give you the basis of why we even need to promote ourselves in our chapters in the first place. So the first question, I guess, is why agriculture? Well, the simple answer is that it's our way of life, right? Food, fiber, clothing, natural resources. We know that we wouldn't exist without the industry of agriculture. But we also know that there are plenty of students that we have and even adults in our communities that don't get this. And that could vary based on where you're at. For me in Burlington, our primary economy is agriculture. So a lot of our families get it. But for Owasso, for example, a lot of those students may not understand coming into it what exactly goes into the agriculture industry. And not to mention the integrity, the character, the way of life. So we're going to go over a few quick myths and facts. We all know some of these, but I'm going to talk about them anyway. So a common myth is that all farms are corporate owned, right? Agriculture is this big, scary entity that, doesn't care about the environment, doesn't care about the welfare of others, but that's the farthest from the truth. Statistically, 99% of farms are family owned. And now some of you might be thinking, well, yeah, there's some pretty large family farms, and that's true. But 90% of those would be actually considered small family farms. So agriculture is run by families and core values, and not necessarily these big corporations. Myth, farmers don't care about wildlife habitat. Well, to date, farmers have enrolled 27 million acres into the Conservation Reserve Program. So that's ground that it's not being disturbed. It's there primarily for habitat. So the native grasses are able to go, and all these wildlife are able to benefit from this. And they've Since then, 2 million acres of wetlands have been restored. A myth, all products for consumption are considered natural, that they're better for you. That's a huge myth because the FDA doesn't actually have a term for the word natural. And so things like nicotine, opium, and heroin would all be considered natural. And so the agency allows for the label to be used so long as the good doesn't have added color, artificial flavor, or synthetic substances. So, you may think if it says natural, that means it's better for you, but that's not necessarily true. And these are things that maybe our students or our community members are taking. So how do agriculturists address these issues? Well, there's a variety of ways. They have special interest groups. Some of the ones that we're most comfortable with are the Beef Council, the Beef Checkoff, Farm Bureau. These are entities that they specialize in promoting their particular brand, their industry, their commodities. We've got lobbyists. We saw one this morning from OKACTE, agriculture committees, youth programs, the publications we get. We've all gotten those publications at our schools and chapters, I'm sure, radio and television programs. So we've got people who their whole job is dedicated to promoting the agriculture industry because we have so much information. And so if agriculture has to do this on the national level, then we're certainly going to have to address these things on the local level. And this is where we're going to focus most of our time. We as ag teachers have to promote ourselves and our FFA chapter and what our students are doing, because if we don't, who will? And we're always at a crisis for funding. We always need extra funding. We always need community buy-in. We always need agricultural education to stay relevant. We don't want FFA and Ag Ed to disappear in the next 10 to 20 years. So we want to be here for a long time. So that's kind of the basis of why we need to promote our FFA chapters. And so kind of put this in your mind that any way we promote our chapter, we could do the same thing to promote the agriculture industry, because it's all connected. It's all tied together. So question, just to kind of get some discussion, and if you answer a question, you get a Hershey's nugget with almonds. What are some of the common misconceptions that you hear in your communities?
You just show pigs.
Okay, you just show pigs. What else? What about agriculture, like production agriculture? What are some misconceptions that you've heard your kids say?
Our products come from the store.
Okay, that's where it started. Oh, that's where it started, right? It just showed up at the store. Yeah. What else? Let's get one more.
It's one of those you hear when you're on the spot, like, I can't think of one. But
Yeah.
Yeah, I know of, and we hear them all the time.
It's okay. We'll move on. Okay, so transitioning. How do we promote our organization, right? So we know we need to promote agriculture. We know that there are entities who are doing this for a living, but our job is to create more advocates for agriculture. So how are we going to do that? Well, I've got 10 different ways that I think are the best ways that we can promote our FFA chapters and our communities, and some examples of how we're going to do that, okay? So for social media, a lot of chapters have a Facebook page. If you guys don't, I would encourage you to do that, but you also have to do what's best for your community. And I know some administrations may not be supportive of this, but if you have the opportunity to have a Facebook, I would highly encourage it. So just to give you guys a little bit of statistics so you understand what your audience is. 25.4% of users are 25 to 34 years old. So that is actually the largest individual population of Facebook users. So it's a relatively younger audience. 36% of those are 45 and older though. So if you, from that 45 and up, that's actually your largest range, but 25 to 34 is the smallest gap where you have a lot of users. So you kind of have to think about who you're marketing to when you're promoting yourself on Facebook. 70% of those users visit daily. 73% of college-educated internet users are on Facebook. So generally speaking, Facebook is a well-educated audience, middle income class. 98.5% of users access with their mobile device. So that should change a little bit to how you post things, because you have to think about, how am I going to see this on a mobile device, not necessarily a laptop. And 86.5% of the content viewed on Facebook contains no links. And I really want you guys to remember this one, because Facebook, they want to earn money, right? They are a for-profit business. So the way that they look at it is they want as many people on Facebook as possible. So if you post a link, let's say it's a YouTube video that your chapter posted, the likelihood of that making it into their algorithm and showing up on multiple people's news feeds is low, because that takes them away from Facebook and off of your page. So if you really want to get views and you really want to help get the algorithm to where your video is shared, post it directly to Facebook. The same thing goes for images. GIFs or GIFs, however you say that, short clips and videos, live feeds, those are always typically going to share more and get more attention than you would a link or just a long post. So just keep that in mind when you're using your Facebook accounts to promote your chapter. So some examples of different ways that you could use Facebook. This one came from Morrison. They posted this year some younger kids who went to the Perkins Dairy Field Day. And I'm not going to talk in depth about each of these. I just want to give you guys examples. So if you're ever trying to plan out what you want to do for your program, then you have things to reference. This is Winoka FFA, Mr. Blocker, he's in here. One of the things I've learned about Winoka is their community really values the chapter reporters contest. It's become a part of their tradition. And so you'll notice that this particular post is a little bit longer than some, because she's cataloging all of this information to put back into the chapter reporters contest. So this goes to show you that your post can have a lot of variety. You can have just pictures. You can have a longer post here where she chose to highlight officers with a picture. And so that you're going to see a lot of different examples. You can also promote events. So Edmund added an event, I think this was this February, where they had a chili supper. And people can actually go on and RSVP to the event. So if you're trying to promote things in your community, you want to get an idea of what you might expect that night, post an event on Facebook. You can promote achievements. So we had 4 course members this year, and we're really fortunate. We have a music teacher who loves working with our FFA members, and so it's kind of an important thing to our community. So I made this little graphic in Canva, and I think a lot of people have heard of Canva, but who in here uses it? Okay, so about half the room. Canva is an online free social media presentation tool. You can make presentations, you can make graphics, logos, PDFs, flyers, all of it, and it's free. And for teachers, you can actually get kind of another subscription that gets you access to a little bit more things. So I would highly suggest you using Canva. I mean, I think it is one of the easiest teacher hacks that you could ever have for an FFA chapter, because you can make literally everything in there. And then when you have a Facebook page, you can actually go and see what your Facebook reach was. So this particular post reached about 1,300 people. So that just gives you an idea of what kind of reach you're having. And if you want to get bigger, if you're happy with that, it just gives you kind of a measure of where you're at. I like this one because emojis do really well on Facebook. So the more you can add to get people's attention, it's pretty common right now. We just kind of live in that day and age where people are very visual, and so they like here she's got the check marks, of what all happened during FFA week. This is cool, just another way to highlight someone's accomplishments. So again, this was probably made in something similar to Canva. There's lots of other ways to design media posts, but this is just another example of highlighting one of your students who is a proficiency finalist. Medill FFA, they're posting pictures about their annual spades tournament. So there's really no rules when it comes to what type of content you can post on your pages, or a lot of chapters have Instagrams too. I don't know many programs who have Twitters, just because Twitter has kind of shifted more to a news outlet for most people. Instagram, I think, tends to be more toward our high school students, that they're the ones who are really paying attention to it. So personally, I think Facebook is the best way to engage the people who are going to interact with you on a daily basis in your community. This was something that I made for FFA week, again, all in Canva. And so you really don't have to have a lot of design experience to be good at this. These particular graphics down here at the bottom, you've got a stalk of wheat, a member shaking hands, and then an FFA jacket. Those came from National FFA. So for those of you who have ever explored their website, it's vast. There's so many different links. But there's actually social media assets that you can go on and download for free, and then you can just put all these on all of your stuff that you're marketing. So if you ever want logos, if you want graphics, if you want different elements that you can include, you can download all of that stuff from ffa.org for free under their brand and media assets. Altus FFA, I found one. I went on a deep dive and just kind of creeped different chapters that have popped up on my page. So what I liked about this one is that this one was actually shared by the high school. And so that's promoting sharing across different accounts. So if you can get other people, especially entities at your school or community, to share your content, that's just going to get you more views, more reach. And so this one was a highlights PDF, it looks like, of the winners from the state contest, proficiency awards, and the state convention. Moore did a post on their summer speech workshop times. So they've attached a picture, and then they put a flyer on there of all the times you could come up to the building for speech workshops. Notice they've got an emoji up there with a pencil and a piece of paper, just giving you ideas of what you can include in your posts. El Reno FFA did a pumpkin carving contest. Again, El Reno didn't go out and make all these little graphics, the leaves and the pumpkins. They downloaded this somewhere like Canva and were able to just go in and edit the information. And so work smarter, not harder. And because this looks really great, it looks clean, and it's better than just saying, hey, we've got a pumpkin carving tonight. Tipton FFA, during COVID, they decided as an officer team to do messages of hope. And so again, don't feel constricted to just Facebook posts about pictures. This was one of their officers who was being videoed. I just screenshot the video, and he just gave a short message of hope. So feel free to use, the audio visual side of Facebook as well, because I just imagine like my grandma scrolling through like, oh, look how cute that Tipton FFA member is talking about hope, and they share that kind of stuff, and that just gets your reach even better. This was something I made during COVID. Unfortunately, it didn't ever get posted on social media, but we posted it on our school website. I just felt really bad for the seniors that they weren't getting any sort of attention. So I made a senior FFA spotlight, again, all in Canva. And this logo down here at the bottom, and then with these molecular background, all of that came from National FFA. So I just downloaded it. It's a picture, and you can just put it into the background of your graphics. And I just think it really helps cut down on your design time and allows you to look really, professional without actually having to put a lot of that background work in. Being FFA, they posted a newsletter. So this looks like it was probably made in Publisher, a Microsoft product. And that one is really great if you're trying to put print materials together, like for your banquet program or a flyer. Microsoft Publisher works well. So you can share newsletters on Facebook as well. So another question to break it up a little again. So we kind of talked about agriculture, and Mr. Dillinger referred to the whole show pigs idea. But what are some of the misconceptions about FFA or ag ed that you guys have heard in your communities or schools?
Even in our area, it's still kind of viewed as just a kind of a farmer's deal, future farmers. We really try to everything that's sent out to the school, we try to correct, in a really polite way, try to correct our administrators who are probably, they grew up with BOAG.
Yes.
They call us BOAG teachers, and well, actually we're the agriculture education, instructors, and explain how that changed in, like 91 or something. So, right,
Yeah. So for focusing on the terminology and not just allowing things to be consistently said incorrectly.
Right.
Yeah.
And especially, the BOAG's not such a big deal, but
Be careful.
Future farmers in America, oh, it's okay.
That's good. Slow pitch.
So yeah, on that note, I think it's really important to always over-explain things when it comes to FFA and Ag Ed, because if you interact with someone in the elevator and they're like, "Oh yeah, I've heard of FAA," you're like, "Whoa, that's the wrong organization." This is not having to do with flight administration.
We're more diverse than what we're advertising.
Absolutely.
Yes, right.
And like I said earlier, who's going to tell people if it's not you guys, if it's not us? And so we have to make sure that when we are interacting with people and they say something wrong, we can lightly help them understand, like, actually, they changed the name officially from Future Farmers of America to National FFA, but it's still, those letters still stand for Future Farmers of America, And that's kind of confusing even for our students, but why not take the extra time to explain, especially to administrators, board members, so they understand, here's what we changed and here's why we're moving forward with this way. Let's get one more. Some misconceptions about FFA and or Ag Ed that you see in your community or school.
You have to show livestock.
You have to show livestock. Yeah, that's one of the ones I hear a ton. I just think that they assume that we are exclusively a livestock all of us are livestock programs, but we know that's not true. In Burlington, we have our whole school is K through 12 is about 135 students, and about 30 to 40 of those typically are in FFA, and we usually have about 10% show livestock. And so, but even in Burlington, a small school, I still have 5th, 6th, and 7th graders who are telling their parents they're scared because they don't want to show livestock, and I'm like, who told them they had to show livestock? It wasn't me. And it's not. It wouldn't matter. I could tell them until I was blue in the face. It's just an assumption that they make. Okay, so another form of promoting your chapter is print media and signage. So this one is super broad. So I'm just going to give a few examples to give you guys some ideas. So Mr. Taylor at Okmulgee, if you guys don't know him yet, he is an excellent resource when it comes to really a lot of things, but marketing, promoting. Honestly, he could probably do a better job at this workshop than I could. But he like me, we did ag communications before we did ag ed, and so he kind of has some background in this. But he uses Canva for all of this, and the FFA emblem came from National FFA, and so this was something that he had printed out and sent invites for an ag ed open house. And for those of you that don't know, Okmulgee had FFA a long time ago, but then there was a long tenure where Okmulgee didn't have FFA. So in a way, he kind of had to start from the ground up when he started teaching there. And so he's worked really hard to build up the momentum and highlight the history of the chapter. And so he does things like this, like the 70th anniversary party, to kind of get people bought into the Okmulgee FFA chapter. This was an invitation he sent out for the chapter banquet. And again, all these fancy things you see were National FFA resources or Canva resources that you can put into your whatever you're designing. Some chapters have differing views on banquet invitations. I think a lot of this depends on your community. Some schools have more of a reception rather than a banquet. Some do more of just refreshments. It just kind of depends on your chapter. But we in Burlington always send out physical invitations. We just have a strong population of people that still want that and still like that. And I think it just goes to show that you're willing to go the extra mile to invite people, bring them in into what. So you might consider having like a master address labels list that you update every year, so that you know who are my key stakeholders that I know will come to the banquet, that I want to come, so that they continuously are able to see what the chapter is doing. This was a PDF or a flyer that he made for their plant sale. So again, just more ways you can use print media to promote your chapter. This was something that we planned for the COVID year. It was going to be March of 2020, and we were doing, I know it's kind of hard to see right now because we were going to hand these out, and this was going to be sort of like the registration form. And again, I made this in Canva, and I had a t-shirt design company make a t-shirt, and so we never actually got to use this, but this was something I would have done as our flyer for the FFA run. This is my project auction invitation. I send these out as well, physical copies. We use a resource out of Enid, Oklahoma. It's called PDQ. It's a printing service, and they're able to print this and do the return label and the sender address all on one copy. So you don't have to do stickers. It just looks really clean, and they do all of it for you. So I send them my master address labels. I send them the PDF, and then they do all the rest of the work. That may not work for you, especially with your budget. Everyone kind of has different areas that they try to cut spending. So for me, it's just one of those things. In the springtime, I really don't want to have to worry about making address labels, taking them off, and putting them onto physical invitations. This was our banquet one, and I try to have the students design as much of this as they can because, I don't want to do it all, not because I can't or I'm not willing to, but because we get really busy, and we also want to equip the students to be able to do this stuff. So I give them access to my Canva account, and I try to get them to design a lot of the stuff that we do as well. So this one, a student helped me do. Signage, so this is a sign on the west side of our town. The structure was already there when I got there, but it looked really outdated, so we used our plasma cam to cut out Oklahoma. Then we downloaded the FFA emblem that was already ready to go into plasma cam as the correct file format, and cut out the FFA emblem, spray painted it, and then this was the end product. And so I'm sure many of you guys have signs on your towns. Not everyone does, but I think it's a great opportunity just to kind of promote FFA even more so that people are constantly seeing it, and they know that FFA has a strong presence in your community. You'll laugh because this sign obviously doesn't look nearly as nice, and I didn't put this one up, but the school years ago bought one of those nice marquees that's probably about 12 feet tall, and it says "Go Burlington Elks," and then it's got the digital words that pop up on it, and everyone pays attention to this one more. They'll drive by town, and it'll have like "Happy Birthday to so and so turning 99 today," or if we have like community events, we put it on here. So I think sometimes these old school marquees or any old school form of marketing tends to do really well, just because people like tradition and they don't necessarily always like change. Again, back to Mr. Taylor, when he was doing that 70-year anniversary, this was a sign that they put outside the school. It says, "Honoring the past, leading into the future, Okmulgee Public Schools Agricultural Education 70 years. So again, this comes down to your budget, but a great way to market your program and more face time with people in your community. This one is a little bit shorter, but I think it can be as broad as you want. So I just have one picture for this. This is one of my students from a couple of years ago presenting at the Lions Club meeting. They meet every other week, and it's a bigger organization for our community. There's about 15 to 20 people who go, a lot of farmers, and a lot of information gets shared and transacted in that type of setting. And so this is a student who took charge of 2 hydroponic tower gardens, and she's one of my more shy students I've ever had. But when it came to this and her passion for it, she had no reservation. She got up there, she presented, she was asking, those farmers were asking her questions, and she was able to educate them about this unique way of growing leafy greens. And so I think this is one of those ways to really engage the service clubs. Whether we have another one called Wheat Hearts in our community, that's the ladies, and it's kind of a play on words because we have a lot of wheat in the area. And then you've got other groups like the American Legion or the Masons. Those are all good clubs to kind of get FaceTime with your students and let them know what your chapter is doing. Radio stations, another way to market your program. And Enid, we're fortunate, so I'm not at Enid, but KOFM is a radio station out of Enid. And every year they invite FFA chapters in the Cherokee Strip and Salt Plains area to come, and we get to interview with their radio host. And then he posts these on Facebook so that we can share them with our communities and with our following. And so I screenshot this one from Garber FFA. All these interviews are about 10 minutes, and he's just asking the students about agriculture, FFA week activities, their SAEs that they have that they're a part of. And again, this is a great way to promote what your school's doing. They're wearing officer polos. Some schools wear official dress. We have long sleeve polos. I saw Fairview did. They had their Fairview FFA white jackets. They kind of look like show jackets. So kind of promoting the whole unity thing. This is a picture of our chapter. You can't see our sixth officer, but they had a great time at this interview, and when we shared it, we got around like almost 900 views. So that makes me proud that we're able to get our message out there in even such a small town that we're getting 900 people seeing our video. So, reach out to your radio station that is nearby and see if they'd be willing to promote you guys, maybe during National FFA Week or something like that. Calendars and internal communication. So, we all know that calendars are like our best way to get a spot in the school's lineup of activities, right? And some schools I've seen, they don't let the FFA chapters get on anything. It's like you go look at the school calendar and there's not a single FFA event, and that makes me so sad. And it's probably not necessarily the teacher's fault. It's probably just a breakdown of communication, or maybe the school just has never put FFA activities on there. I know that everyone kind of has working with a different reason for this, but this is a Google Calendar. This is my personal calendar. But as you can see, I've got multiple calendars on here. So this kind of like light purple color, this is not mine. This is the ag teacher calendar that Cameron Dale at Bartlesville makes. And so all you have to do is ask her, send her an email. She puts it all together for you. Just out of the kindness of her heart. And so on Google, you can go and add this if she shares you the link, and it's got every single event that someone has shared with her. So I can take that off at any time, and it'll disappear, and I won't have to see it again. But then I've got FFA, I've got just school, I've got my personal events. And this isn't really as much about promoting the chapter yet. It does when it ties into the school calendar, but I just wanted to show you guys kind of what I did, and I'm sure you all have your own systems as well. We just started this new thing at our school where our principal shared with us a Google Sheets file with every month, and he's having every single activity, extracurricular director, every program director go in and add all of their dates so that we can see it, and then when the time comes, we'll have one master calendar through the school website. And so you can bet I went on there the very first day that he shared that with me, and I put on every single date that I could find, because sometimes it's a race getting those dates on the calendar. And granted, like, I know I'm not going to be at this Oklahoma City State Fair every day, but I wanted to put it on there so that if for some reason I didn't in the first time, I wouldn't have to go back and add the date after the calendar was already set. So in all reality, I may only be there 2 or 3 days, but I put the whole duration of the calendar on there, the county fair. And some dates I knew I didn't have, but we know that like OYE, for example, is always that same week during spring break. So, basically what I'm encouraging, if you don't already, is to try to get on your school calendar at whatever cost, because I think that's the best way to let your community see, wow, look at all these FFA events that are going on, and let them see that you are an active FFA chapter. And so this is our school website. And I just screenshot one little thing on here so that, hey, if the community wanted to go on and see, oh yeah, the kids are at state convention this week, And I just think it kind of helps us too. It lets people know we're staying busy, we're active, we're not just, messing around and doing whatever we want. We actually have a lot of things that we're doing and we're going to, and our students are really active in the program. So I think this one is just one of those ones. It's a given. We all know that the calendar is important, but fight for that if you can, to try to get on your school's calendar, because I think it's really important. Some more internal communications. This is totally optional, obviously, but a couple of years ago we got back from the Tulsa State Fair, and it cut off some other stuff down below. But I just wanted to share with our teachers and our faculty what we did at Tulsa State Fair. Again, just to kind of promote. You're always promoting your chapter, right? And letting your teachers and your faculty know that, hey, these students are accomplishing things when they're gone. They're just not missing your class to get out of your class. You know, they really are making a difference, and they're learning things. This is from this year's Northwest District show. Like I said, I just like to share with the school what is going on and what our students are doing. So if you're ever feeling like maybe your teachers don't know what's going on, you know, maybe consider sending them an email of what your students did that week. This is a screenshot of Winoka FFA's FFA page. So I'm sure that either Mr. Blocker, in conjunction with his officers, probably requested this to whoever their administrator was. But basically, when you go to the Winoka FFA's school website, you click on the FFA tab, and it takes you to this. And this all goes back to their goal as a chapter to be competitive in the chapter reporters contest. So these officers, they've made all these different posts, articles, graphics, and you can go on and click on any individual one of these and see what the FFA chapter did that month or that week. And this is an example of what it looks like. This was their best of the best livestock reasons camp. And so she attached pictures. She's got a nice description, paragraph article that she wrote. And again, more internal communications, more opportunities for people to see what's going on. Okay, back to another question. What method of agriculture/FFA promotion has been most effective for you? I know that what I do may not work for everyone, so I want to know what's been most effective for you in your FFA chapter.
We share to so I'm at Little Axe, and we don't have like an actual a Norman address, but we're not actually in Norman. We're like on Highway 9, so we don't have like a community, so to speak. Everybody's pretty spread out.
Mm-hmm.
We have a couple of community pages on Facebook that
Perfect.
a lot of people frequent, so that's how we do is we just post our FFA. We share chapter Facebook posts to the community pages.
So that would be a good example of being very specific to your community, because it may be a little bit excessive to have it as specifically an FFA page if you guys know that the best way to reach people is the community pages.
Right.
Perfect. What else? What are some of the most effective ways you've seen to promote your FFA chapter thus far?
I can speak for us. We just, this last summer, started our first Facebook page. We got a really good response from our community members about that. Now, it's a majority parents, but what's really cool about that is they share it, and then their other people share it, so we end up getting a lot more engagement.
Absolutely.
But we still have to give it to the paper, too, because our community members, a lot of them are still older people who don't maybe want a Facebook.
Right.
So we utilize the local newspaper as well.
Yes, that's actually something I forgot to put in my slides was newspaper articles, but that might be the most effective way to communicate in your community. And I know we have our yearbook class actually sends articles on our behalf. So they work with our officers to get photos and information, and then they send it in as part of their yearbook assignments. And so I know not every school would do that, but if your school does or would be willing to, that would save you some time to not have to do all the work on the front end. I think I only have like 12 minutes left, so I'm going to go a little bit faster. Youth education programs, another way to promote your school. I think everyone's probably heard of Ag in the Classroom, but they do a bushel of books every year where a teacher from your school can go on and fill out an online form to be registered for a bushel of ag accurate books. Your elementary teachers love this because it's just more time promoting reading comprehension. It shows you that you're willing to apply for things that you don't have to do. And so Ag in the Classroom, they do an Ag Accurate Book, read an Ag Accurate Book Day every year. And it's something that we tend to do every year. I didn't realize how much the teachers enjoyed it until they started coming to me saying like, I noticed we hadn't read Ag Accurate books today. When do you guys come to do that? And this wasn't even during FFA week. It was just kind of a random month that they wanted to see some Ag Accurate books. So I like this because not only are we promoting ag literacy at a young age, we're letting our younger students see our FFA members in action, and we're building relationships with elementary teachers that we are a program that we want to encourage students to be a part of. This was a tractor safety presentation that we did during a community event, and we just had like one of our Kubota tractors there in the community, and those are two of my officers sharing with all these students. This gives you an idea of Burlington. You can see the grain silos in the background and the co-op. I mean, that's very integral to our community. And so we're doing this at the Purple Park, they call it, because all the playground equipment is purple. This is a quick video just kind of showing you what, it's not really, there's not much to it, but he's talking about the PTO shaft. So just a fun way to interact with younger students and promote youth education. Special interest groups. So Farm Bureau does a resolutions meeting in every county. Anywhere that there's a local Farm Bureau, which is in most counties, they'll do a resolutions meeting because, you know, Farm Bureau, for those of you that don't know, they call their grassroots organization. So all of their legislation that they're putting forth, that they're asking lobbyists or legislators to pass, starts at the local level. You know, you could go to a Farm Bureau meeting and say, hey, I want to see this change, and then all of a sudden you could see that come into the legislature and get passed as a bill. And so they typically invite ag teachers to these resolutions meetings, and you know, maybe take an FFA president and just be present with those farmers in the community. And sometimes not just farmers, there's a lot of people that go to these resolutions meetings that are just active community members. So this is just another way to get face time with people in the community and maybe reach a different audience that you're not used to seeing on a daily basis. Because this was in Cherokee, and Cherokee, Timberlake, and Burlington is Alfalfa County. So now we're not just interacting with Burlington members, we're also interacting with two different communities. This was a Cherokee hamburger feed. That's actually Mrs. Snyder, the Cherokee ag teacher, and one of her FFA officers at this Cherokee hamburger feed. So you can, these things in small towns go a long ways, but if they go a long way in small towns, I'm sure they would, you know, be just as effective in bigger towns too, because they love to see your willingness to be present when you don't necessarily have to be. Everyone knows about FFA Day at the state capitol, but I just thought I'd throw it in there like as another way to have FaceTime with legislators, and you know, they love to see people in the blue corduroy jackets, so it's another great way to promote your chapter. The Beef Advocacy Program, that the Beef Council puts this on. It's an online course for your students to take, and I like to brag on my students at our banquet for the ones who completed this course because it helps them become better advocates for the beef industry. A lot of times they want to get through it because they're tired of hearing the slides, but I hold on to the fact that I'm sure they learned at least something during the process. Okay, real quick, what obstacles, if any, do teachers face in promoting ag and ag education? What are some of the obstacles that you seem to face? This might be kind of redundant back to our first questions, but I just thought I'd throw it out there if anybody has any ideas.
Time.
What? Time, that's true, yeah.
Ultimately, it's time.
Yep.
I'd love to do a better job myself, but
Yeah, there's never enough time in the
Following
day.
an ag teacher who's lived their whole life there, 40-plus years, it's hard following somebody like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, when I got to Burlington, Mr. Bradshaw had been there 15. That's not as long as 40, but there was still quite a bit of tradition and culture expected there, and I was really intimidated to start, but the community and Mr. Bradshaw were really supportive to help get me going. Videography, this one I feel like is very cutting edge, if you will. I mean, a lot of people are still just diving into this on the school district level. This is Mr. Taylor again at Okmulgee. He during the COVID timeframe when things were kind of, you know, dull. We were doing virtual school. He made this 11-minute video about a chicken tunnel construction at their school, and he's helping students with SAE projects. It got 20,000 views. It went. I mean, for an ag teacher, I would consider it viral, right? It's just It's just him
That's
showing.
well, because if you
That's
do a
really
good
loud.
job and you work hard at it, it's very rewarding.
And the money is the best.
Him just showing this video. I thought it was awesome.
I don't know if you can see, but it kind of just sets up on its own, which is nice.
So they can actually walk. This is
So,
on the
yeah,
school
pretty much
campus.
We'll have a little
They
extra
can
on
walk
the bottom.
through this chicken tunnel.
Overall,
I think that'll work.
so,
This hat is 12 years old and survived.
okay, so
Yeah.
I'm going to start.
So, just another way to engage people on a different platform. YouTube is a great way if, you can either start a chapter account or maybe start a personal account and just do it that way. We actually use this. Oh, that's not what I want. I use YouTube quite a bit. I won't play this for you, but this would be a good idea, for a chapter officer team. The State Department, Oklahoma FFA, has been putting out these videos for a couple years now about just a quick leadership story or lesson. And I'm sure they have their own producers at Career Tech. But, you guys could do this with a chapter camera or an iPhone or Android. And just do a nice little video about something that your chapter officers are trying to focus on for that year and post it to your YouTube account. This is an example we use. I have a student every year make an FFA slideshow. I feel like that's a tradition as old as time. We've kind of shifted away from using PowerPoint now, and we can use more evolved things like iMovie. There's a lot of different ways to do editing software. Mr. Wyatt at Tipton, they do a lot of live streaming before. They have a studio now, if you will, where they are able to produce videos and different things like that. But the good thing is that you can do this as simple or as complex as you want. iMovie, I turned he just got an iMac for, I think, his birthday, and he had never seen iMovie in his life, and he was able to produce this video in less than a week. And so it's a great way to share, and then it's always here if you need to reference it for some reason and share it with other people. This is my YouTube account. I have a whopping total of 19 subscribers, and I don't know who any of them are. That photo was from college, so I look a little bit different now. But these are the videos I've posted during COVID. I did some virtual school videos. They were really lame, but I think my kids got a kick out of them because I put like a TikTok at the beginning of one of them that I ripped off the internet. And that's another thing, like if you're using some sort of video editing software, you can go to YouTube, or you can go to Google and type in like YouTube MP4 converter, copy a link from a YouTube video, paste it in there, and then it automatically downloads the song for you. So feel free to give me a call if you ever want me to help you with that. If you are like, what does that even mean? I'm sure there's probably some of you who have already done it. But and on the back end of things, so this is what you can't see from my public profile. These are unlisted videos from our chorus members. So when I work with our music teacher, he posts all of our chorus auditions on my page, and then you share the unlisted link with the director, Colt Julian, right? Yeah, Colt Julian. He views these, and we share the link with him on our YouTube account. Award programs, this one's self-explanatory, but I just would be remiss if I didn't say this is a great way to promote your chapter. So you can start anywhere from the banquet level, right? Promoting what your students are doing and treating the banquet with a lot of reverence and importance, and not just making it another event and actually giving it a lot of attention and detail. And then like we do like a green hand night where we kind of induct the freshmen as official green hands and give them their green hand pin, and they present the FFA creed, and we do like a mock verbal green hand quiz. And so this is an example of that process. And we invite the community to this. Anyone is welcome to come and watch. I got this picture from the FFA Twitter. These are this year's proficiency or area star awards. The Oklahoma Stars, I think, is a picture. So again, state convention recognition all the way to the national level. This was an article on the National FFA site of Nicole Stevens when she was the star in agri-science. And so you guys already know all these things about award programs, but just it's extra motivation, right? Sometimes we get discouraged because we know how competitive they are, how much work they are, but we also know that it's a great way for our students to get recognized and to promote our chapters. This one is, so I got this from a friend who is outside of the ag industry. It's this idea called consumer interactions on multiple interfaces. So it's kind of this really wordy definition to basically say, allow the FFA chapter to be seen in multiple areas outside of the context of school. So anytime you can get your program somewhere where they're seen, so some examples would be like, we have a Veterans Day assembly. It's not an FFA assembly, but we do a luncheon in the ag building. We have an alumni parade. It's not an FFA event, but we do an FFA float. The stock show, we invite our Squirtle team to live stream the stock show. FFA Sunday, we're taking our students to a local church and promoting but also letting the students get something out of it too. Our Christmas program, not an FFA event, but we set up the Christmas tree, and I made these elk letters, and so we do the FFA Christmas tree lighting. We did these little wood pallet Christmas trees. We sold them at that in a silent auction at the Christmas program. So it's just this idea that you don't have to just exclude yourself to only FFA sponsored events. Show up a little bit of everywhere. A few more things that I didn't really highlight are messaging platforms like Remind or using the AET Messaging Center to communicate people. Obviously, public speaking is a great way to promote your chapter. Time in official dress. We know how adults love to see the students in official dress. And then ultimately, we're just trying to, we're advocates for agriculture. We're trying to create more advocates for agriculture. And so how can all of this promote our agriculture and our local programs? Well, we're promoting the truth. We're securing the welfare of the ag industry and FFA and Ag Ed as a reputable form of youth education. We are getting buy-in from our school and community. We're making sure we have financial support at the state, national, local levels. We have job security because we're taking care of business, and then we're establishing a tradition of excellence. So that's everything. If you don't have my number, feel free to write it down. I know I don't know everything, but I'd love to talk with you guys and get ideas from you as well. So thank you.